All right, guys, welcome to the show, The Hype Mind. My name is Daniel, and this is
Fair. What up, everybody? What's good?
and we're talking about interviewing. Okay,
That's right. Lots to learn.
now, very important. Even if you're not going to an interview or anything, this is still important stuff we're going to talk about because, in a way, we are always leaving an impression everywhere we go, no
Well,
matter who
and
that's with.
everything
Family,
in
friends.
life is a negotiation. So
Yep, just gonna adjust my volume here.
you always got to be able to negotiate, even if you're not at the interview table, you know?
Right, people always looking at you, whether they can trust you, they can rely on you, future partner, and who knows, you might run into someone who's a future employer. So let's get into interviewing. First and foremost, you have to be real, and I can't emphasize this enough, that you have to be responsive, right? Someone messages you, you message them back, you return it, you give them a call later, you leave a message if they don't pick up. You're able to interact in an appropriate time manner, and they're not like chasing you, they can't find you, you're there, you're real, you're not, your presence, that you're willing to work with somebody if they want to schedule a time, to get together, to have an in-face, or to have an in-person interview. You're able to work that out.
Right. You got to demonstrate some big qualities here: organization, responsibility, accountability, time management.
Yeah. If they don't, or if they set up times and they offer you times, if those don't work for you, you give them times back and you say, all right, can this work for you? Blah blah. You're proactive. That's the word there we could use in that. And it's so important to be, and it makes things so much easier. It leaves a good impression on people. You're not ghosting them for a week or anything like that, and you're just do the basics, right? Hey, how's it going? Stuff like that. It's not too complicated. And actually, Bear, I think we could talk a lot about this actually, because it's really important to dress up or to look well groomed for an interview, and I think we're losing some of that. Remember the podcast we did with George and how he had a story about an interview where
I'll drop that in the link.
Yeah. And so it's important to dress up. We still like
no. Let me emphasize on that. I mean, well,
by the cover, people still do it. It's just biology, right? So
you started with George's story, right? And in his story, because it's worth hearing again, but it's even more worth listening to. So definitely check out the link. In his story, his class was the only ones who dressed up on the way out the door, and all of them got jobs, and they got good jobs too. They weren't interviewing for, well, actually, what was one of them interviewing for, like something as
fast food restaurant or something like that.
Yeah, fast food restaurant, right? Yeah. And they're like, wow, nobody ever dresses up, you're hired now. Right? But you said it's important to dress up. I would stress that even more. You will dress up, period. If you want to do this right, you're going to dress up. Done. There's no questions. The other day, a little while ago, I went to drop my resume off somewhere, right? And I was like, I don't really care if I get this job or not. Like, just looking for a little extra work on the side that's fun, I was like, no, I have standards for myself. I'm going to take the time to dress up, period. Or I'm not. I won't let myself show up. So if you're going for an interview, you will dress up. If you don't, you're not doing it right. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care what anybody else does. I don't care what because this really does have a big influence on you. I don't care what the person you're going for the interview with or going to see says, right? Oh, you don't have to dress up. No, you're gonna dress up. Period. Done. That's it. You're gonna dress up, right? my teacher in high school really emphasized that. She said, my students dress up when they go for job interviews. And I was like, okay, fair enough, right? And every time I've ever done it, I've never received a bad result from it. That's the other thing is yes, not dressing up, you might get a neutral response where nobody acknowledges it, right? But you're never going to get a bad response for taking the time to dress up. Most people, have said, "Oh, you didn't have to dress up for me," right? Which this is an opportunity to do a lot of other things like create some rapport, right? I've had, yeah, I've had numerous, do you want to call them the person who's going to interview me say, "Oh, you didn't have to do that," right? And now I can be funny, I can be positive, I can be whatever I want, right? So like, oh, I rolled out of bed looking this way, or are you kidding me? I dressed up because of you, right? Like something that says I can be funny, I can be humble, but still make positive of the moment, right?
Yeah, you're using it as an opportunity to talk about something.
Yeah, and the other thing
Right.
is they noticed it, right? Because I took the time to dress up. I took the time to dress up, and the result was they acknowledged it, and that's what you want. You want them to notice you at that interview. You don't want to just be another person in front of them.
That's right. That's right. Because there's going to be several other people interviewing, and so you have to stand out. So
Probably
there we
hundreds.
go.
Probably hundreds.
Yes. Well, yeah. Depends who you're interviewing. But I have a
That,
story to share. Actually, I was out shopping, and this man just walks up to me and he says, "Thank you for dressing nicely." And guess what I was wearing? A t-shirt, shorts. That's it.
yeah. But you had a belt on and it was tucked in,
Uh-huh.
or who knows? Yeah.
Exactly. So I had a shirt that fit. I had nice pants, shorts on, good clean shoes.
That's a
I
good
was
word. It
walking and stuff
fits.
like that. I mean, even even just dressing appropriately or in just general when you go out leaves a good impression on people, and people are gonna know.
Yeah, people naturally, I think, associate that with wealth and status when you dress well.
Hmm.
But anyway, let's keep moving on.
Let's do it. Um, I think what goes actually with dressing up, which is kind of like just always how it used to be, is also handshakes, which is I think also an interesting subject to bring up because I think we're losing it. I mean, I've encountered, especially guys, many guys who you shake their hand and it's like it's really floppy and it's instantly a turn off.
The wet fish.
Is that what you call it? You call it some kind of fish, whatever.
Yeah,
But
what?
like,
Yeah,
keep that there. It's just like one of a fundamental, a part of the basics. It's a way to interact. It's a way to start out, right? It's like saying, "Hey, how are you?" And a way to leave a good impression. Have a firm handshake.
well, that's true. You have to think about how that affects people, right? Like you're, I would argue you're probably more inclined to remember people who made physical contact with you. Um, and the more certain types of physical contact, as in a firm handshake, leaves an even greater impression than other physical contact, right? Like we're saying, if you have like a really weak handshake or you do a fist pump, yes, it's going to have an impression. It's going to be a poor one, right? So
Right.
leave
Exactly.
a better impression and make that impression that's more impactful in a good way. So good point. Yep. Keep,
Right.
keep rattling them off. I think before I get to mine, you're going to touch a lot of them. So
Okay. I mean, just having manners, being covering the basics. I mean, it's important. It's not hard. You do it. You say, "Hey, how are you?" They give you something. You say, "Thank you." Um, like, this all about leaving an impression here? We can get deeper into like be
right,
interested,
etiquette.
like have have a conversation that goes back and forth. This isn't. It's not all about you. It's not about them. You're in the same. People say this too. Like you're there to interview too because you're looking at the job. You're looking if it's a good fit. You both have to make a decision to make. or you both have a decision to make, whether you accept the job and they accept you. So you're there too to to speculate, to say, oh, is this a good place to work? Is this good place to be? Can I trust and rely on them too?
Oh,
Because it's a trade. You're trading. I mean, they're trading compensation for your work, whatever that is. What were you going to say?
a couple of good points. I mean, one, you want to do your research, right? A lot of the things I understand about interviews
Mhm.
uh,
I
come from
agree.
a
It's very
couple of
important.
different places,
Do your
right?
research, and I was going to get to that.
Yeah. If you haven't read it, and I'll be honest, I didn't learn, or I should say, I don't remember nearly as much as I should from this book, right? What Color's Your Parachute? Great book, great advice, and we'll go over a lot of that stuff because, to be honest, they're on point with a lot of facts. Um, and then How to Win Friends and Influence Others, right? Those are two books that are really going to tell you. One is a little more related to acquiring a job, and the other is more related to people skills, right? But that's what you're doing. You want to demonstrate good people skills in those situations. But you were talking about, I just lost it. What were you saying?
Um, I was talking about being interested in the other person, or having a two-way conversation, but also
Right.
something you just
Well,
mentioned
there's a
was
couple of big points. The first is you want to offer something to that company, right? You want to see what the company is lacking and offer to them if you really want to nail your job or that job interview and acquire that job, right? Like sometimes you're indifferent and you're just like, and which this is the tough part because I know how this can be, and it kind of goes against what the recommendations are, right? But you want to know what you want to do there. You want to have your eyes set on a goal because if you don't know what you want, you really can't negotiate for what you want, right? If all you want is a job, you're probably going to get it, and it could be the janitor, right? So you really want to know what you want. You want to know where you want to work in,
exactly.
which is why you have to do part of your. That's part of the reason doing the research is important. What jobs are there, right? Because I can tell you one of the jobs I applied for, I didn't realize how many departments there were. I didn't realize how many different things there were. I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't realize there was so many more opportunities, right? So once I'm sitting down with this gentleman who was the president of the business, he's like, well, and you could do well here and here. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to do all these things. And I was like, shoot, now I don't know what I want to do. And I'm in the meeting and that's not good. Right. So know what you want, know where you want to go in that job specifically. And the other thing you were kind of touching on is you want to, I'm only going to say kind of, the more you um, get up there and become more, the better you get at this, the more you're going to want to do this, right? But you kind of want the interview. You will kind of want to run the interview. You want to be asking the questions, right? Which sounds a lot different than what you've been told. But if you can sit there be asking questions like, well, what does your company have to offer me? How can I better serve your company? What are you looking for? In new employees. What are some of the traditions? You want to be the person asking the question is in control, and you kind of want to be in that position of control, because it's also going to demonstrate a lot of things to the person interviewing about you. So that's something to think about, right? And even if you don't want to come from that position, having questions is important. You want to definitely have questions. If you just go into that interview and you're like, just give me a job, like again, you're here to make a good impression, even if you don't get the job or don't end up working out a reasonable negotiation between the two of you. So asking questions is going to do that. Oh, he's interested in our company. He's interested in our history. He has intelligent questions that he's been asking. So he's clearly, or she is not, they're not stupid. They're asking intellectual questions, right? So definitely, at least at a minimum, walk into that interview with a handful of questions that you want to ask. Um, Yeah.
Well, it happens where people go into work and they get a job and they're like, oh, I didn't expect it to be like this. And so once you do your
Well,
research,
that shows you
ask those
didn't do your
questions.
research.
Yeah,
You didn't
then
talk to people in that field. You didn't Google the business. Um,
and
a
that's
lot
the
of
great
people
thing.
don't because nobody teaches
Businesses,
you.
most businesses have a website now, so
Yeah.
you can get useful information to bring to an interview.
Well,
And
and you can walk
you look
in.
smart too. If you've
You
done
know,
your research, you know who runs the place and able to reference them in your interview. Say, oh, I saw this, this, and this. I mean,
most businesses are going to have, not all, but many are going to have the ability for you to walk in the door. You know, like if let's say you're applying for Starbucks, right? You can walk into Starbucks and see the atmosphere. Is this a nice restaurant? Is it clean? You can walk up to the counter. Are the people polite? You know, like because if they're not having a good day, it's probably a reflection of higher management, possibly, or the situation they're in. Right? You could say, "Hey, are you having a good day? Do you enjoy working here?" Right? You can just pretend you're some casual stranger getting a coffee, right? But you can feel out the place you're going to be working at. You can always, um, sometimes it's a little more tough to do that, but not always, right? There's always a way to even spark up a conversation with an employee there, um,
mhm.
and to get information, you know, on if this is what you really want to do, right? And to kind of get a feel out before you spend the time to dress up, to write out a resume, to you know, do all the research on the company and then make time for an interview too.
Right. Well, don't be afraid to do that as well.
Right, don't. Yeah.
To go out of the box and
This is your life.
exactly and look further into what you're getting into, and not just think it has to be a sit down interview just like every other interview.
Right. And again, part of the importance of understanding why you need to know what you want when you walk in there, you know, like what do they pay people? What am I going to ask for? Is this a position I want? What position do I want? Right. Because the interview, and this is a bit of a change of perspective for a lot of people, is a negotiation, right? You're asking for a job, you're offering your skills, your time, your efforts, and they're going to give you something in return. The job you want and money, right? And obviously, you don't want it to be all about money, but you want to make sure you're walking out of there satisfied. How much do you need to get paid? How much do you want to get paid? How much is reasonable for you to get paid? Um, and and again, don't just walk in there and make it about money. You know, money's going to come up at the end of the conversation. Okay, so what do you, you know, what do you usually start people off with at? That's a good question. Or what are you willing to pay to, you know, to pay me, etc. Right? And other good questions are what benefits do you have? Don't forget to ask about additional stuff like that because those are going to impact your pay. If they don't have benefits, you can ask for more money. If they have benefits and you don't want them because you already have health insurance, you can ask for more money. So,
I agree with that. Yeah.
but, you know, it doesn't have to be, and I think a lot of people don't realize this. It doesn't have to be. We pay people $15 an hour done. Well, guess what? You're the first person that they're not going to pay $15 an hour to because you're going to say, "Oh, well, I actually don't work for less than 18 an hour." And if they say, "Well, we don't do 18," you can say, "Hey, well, you know, it's been great. Um, consider that number. I'll catch up with you know I'll touch base um, you know in a week. But 18 is what I need to live where I live, and you know I know that I can benefit your company. It's well worth your time to do that if you let me show that to you. So don't forget, you're in a negotiation. You are both negotiating. They want your skills. You want them to pay you.
Right. And I want you to keep this in mind too, is that if most people never ask for a higher wage than they're given. And so the likelihood of them offering you more is rare.
Right. So yeah, don't be
Just
afraid.
ask.
Well, and that brings up something else, just a little other piece of winning advice. Shoot. Darn it. Where'd it go? Yeah, don't be afraid to ask more. Let's move on. I'll remember it. Gosh, I
Yeah.
can't remember. It was
Sorry.
something with that negotiating.
Yeah. Negotiating for a higher
As
wage.
fast as they come, they roll out the other ear. So
They come fast though.
you do.
It's important. All right. Anyways, and then to prepare. Make sure you prepare. It's important to prepare for these things. And so you know why, you know what you're there, you know what you want, like Bear said. Have that in mind before you're in there. So you're not thinking, what you're not put off guard about, okay, what do I want? How do I
Right.
answer this question? Blah blah blah. If you just mentally prepare
Oh, that's
yourself,
what it was. Okay, yeah, I remembered. Yeah, no, okay, so
all it
yeah,
is gonna help you.
yeah, prepare. Know when you got to be there. Make sure you get there early. Know what that you're going to wear something nice. Have something kind of picked out. Do the research. Write some questions down. Know what position you want. Um, maybe know a little bit about the person who's going to be interviewing if you can. Stuff like that, right? Because people like to talk about themselves, right? That was a big point that Dale Carnegie put out there. People like to talk about themselves, right? So ask the person questions about themselves or already know things about them and they'll be impressed. Wow, how did you know that I started this company in 2010? I did. Yes, it was very difficult. You're already in their favor, right? The thing I wanted to add on before was you again, you're negotiating, right? And so one of the key things with negotiating and sales, and I think you can really reaffirm this, Dan, is if they offer you a number, throw it back at them, right? Don't be if they say, hey, what are you looking to get paid? Say, well, what do you start people off with, right? Let them be the first person to put the number on the table when it
We can
comes
have
to
we can have a negotiation talk.
yeah, when it comes to the negotiation talk, especially about money, or you can even do it with job. Hey, what are you looking for a job? Well, you know, what I wouldn't necessarily say what. Well, yeah, I guess you could say what areas are open. But the thing is, just because an area doesn't have work for one more person doesn't mean they won't make it if they want you. If
Right.
you think, oh,
If
well, you don't have any
you
people
show
in
that
the
you'll
department,
add to them, if you show that you can be an asset, then they'll open up the floor for you.
putting that foot down, being able to
That's the
say no.
mindset to go into there. How can I contribute?
Yeah, being able to say no is the strongest negotiating position, right? So if they say, well, we don't have any room for a new person in the engineering department, and you say, well, you have such an amazing engineering department. That's really where I was looking to work. So, if things change, let me know. I'll call back in a week to see if any availability opens up or something, right? But basically saying no, it's this position or nothing, and you've already made all these good impressions that they want you on the team. They'll make room for you, right? That was something that book I was mentioning earlier really emphasized. If they want you because you do a good job selling yourself, they'll make room for you. They will even make new positions for you to fit people in if if they want you. So,
Hmm.
how well
You're also competing with other people that already have the job.
right. I mean, some jobs are looking for a reason to get rid of other people just, because they're not performing well. So, you never know. Push is what I'm saying. Don't let up on shooting for what you want.
Hmm.
So, and the same thing goes with money. If you want something and they throw the question at you, well, where are you looking to work? You know, well, you should know the answer to that question. But well, what are you looking to make? Throw the question back at them. Well, what do you typically pay people? And that's something you can also do research on possibly.
Yeah, for sure. So it's reasonable to make before you go in there and start. Just you're just unprepared. You don't know your negotiating lines. Anyways, anything else, Bear?
Oh, let me think about that for a minute. Should we tell them we're sitting in the same room this whole time? No, I'm just kidding. Um,
I guess not.
let me think about that for a minute. Anything else? I mean, I think I hit most of the bigger points that I wanted to share. Yeah,
Perfect.
just like you were saying in the beginning, the etiquette, the etiquette,
Etiquette. You got it right first.
the etiquette is a big one. Dress well, speak well, be polite. Show up on time if not early. Um, Stuff like that. The research, the questions, taking the time to prepare, um, knowing what you want. All that stuff is very important. So don't pass up on any of it. Don't underestimate any of it. The more you do, success depends on previous preparation. And obviously, the more you prepare, typically the more successful you'll be in most cases. But without that said preparation, failure is sure to be there. Right? That was, I don't know, Aristotle or something. Socrates, I think. I think Socrates said that. So, yeah,
Great stuff.
great stuff.
All right. Hey guys, thanks for watching and peace.